Welcome to the Home Building Hub, your essential podcast guide to building your new home. Hosted by industry experts Colin Bischoff and Darren Brennan, this conversational podcast will help better educate you about all things new home building so you can avoid costly mistakes and enjoy your building experience to the fullest, no matter which home builder you choose.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Home Building Hub. Colin here with co-host Darren Brennan as always. And in this episode, we thought we'd share a little bit of, some of the technology, Darren, that can help home buyers. Hopefully point out a few that you may not be aware of to help you sort of get through and how to visualize plans and all that sort of stuff. So we just thought it might be a little helpful topic that Darren had raised. So how are you today first, Darren? Always got to check in with you.
Mate, going great. Thank you. Lovely morning here in Ballarat, as always. For those that don't know, we record from two different locations. I'm sure it's pretty evident if you're watching us on YouTube, but if you're not and you're wondering, I'm in Ballarat, Colin's in Melbourne, and it seems to come together pretty well. So a lot of people, when they talk to us about the podcast, like, oh, where do you guys meet up to do it? No, we don't. We're in two opposite ends of the place, and it works pretty bloody well. So, which is good. Yeah. Hey, Cole, mate, we've had some great feedback, and I know we both got reached out to. I was just thinking something a bit different right now, so I'm putting it on you. But a lady called Vicky reached out and gave us both a bit of a shout out about the podcast. So I just want to say thanks, Vicky. We really appreciate your feedback, and hopefully you do listen to this episode and hear us give you a shout out. So well done, Vicky, and thank you. We do have a fee for the podcast, which is, please, if you get a chance, share the podcast. And Vicky certainly seems like she's going to do that for us, but also leave a 5-star review. They're really easy to do. Jump on any of the platforms. That'll help share the podcast. We're all about giving back value. We don't make any money out of doing this podcast. We just do it for the fun of doing it, the joy of doing it, and also to pass on value to you guys and hopefully share some of our expertise in that space. But Cole, I wanted to put it out there, and I guess the question should be asked: where is technology taking us in the home building journey, and more so at the front end? I'm not talking about what's going on site. I'm talking about when you're in that sales phase. Where do you see that? I'm seeing some pretty cool options out there that aren't visiting a display home. Some of you have to go visit a display home to use, but it's not the usual display home experience. It's not walking through a home built. We're talking about using technology to show you the home, make you feel like you're there, potentially, all that sort of stuff. Mate, how do you see it? What do you see out there, mate? And any thoughts on that space? I think it's the way of the future. How long that is away, though, is really the question. Some of this stuff's been around a little while, but it's certainly growing and growing and growing. So maybe touch on your thoughts.
Yep. Well, it's a bit of a passion of mine, Daz. I've always been interested in this side of it, challenging, I guess, the status quo. The structure of how industry is with display villages hasn't changed really for a very long time. In previous roles, I've had the privilege, I suppose, of being in certain positions that enabled me. And every week we would get 2 or 3 or 4 phone calls from different companies that would reach out promoting a new or trying to get a meeting to talk to us and introduce their new technology. And I always made a point to sort of make sure that I had one of those a week. So I've had the privilege of seeing so many different types of technology, and I think probably most of them have a bit more to go, but it's probably more that it's the consumer's readiness that is the key to all of this. So a lot of the technology and the things that were presented to me around virtual tours and realistic too. Like, I had one where we had the virtual goggles on and which we'll go through a few of these options today. But I remember looking through, it was in a laundry, and I looked, the guy's like, just turn your head a bit, look under the tap. And I'm like, I had a look, and you could see the washer, like grain for grain, like line for line, I should say. And then he said, okay, now have a look at the side of the tap, and you could see the logo of the provider, so of the supplier. So, and it was crystal clear. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. You open the drawers and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, this is getting close, but are people ready to, walk around with goggles on to justify that's the house I want to pick? At that time, that was
I think my kids are,
2015.
but they're not quite in a buying phase of homes yet. You know what I mean? And
No.
that's probably the reality of where it's at, right? So
Yeah. So, and it's always been the case. A lot of businesses come out early technologically in any industry and end up failing because they were too soon. The market wasn't ready. And then it's sort of, if they had copy pasted it 5 or 8 years later, they would have been ready to roll, you know. So there's a bit of that happening in our industry, a bit of hesitation, I think, from the people who buy homes. That they still like that physical, tangible element. That said, our business is pretty much remote, Darren, but we do have a few displays. They're not display homes, but they are houses to be visited by appointment only, and that's still a pretty pivotal part of the process, unless you're really a non-emotional um, investor who just wants that plan, color boards, etc. So we're going to share a few with you guys today, and you could jump on and jump on their websites and sort of have a look. I think the most important one for me personally in our business, and what I think provides great value, is Matterport. So a Matterport, which is something that a lot of people know because they're not just related to homes. It could be office spaces. It could be tourist attractions you can jump in. And a Matterport is basically a realistic. It's actually a photo, but 360 photos of sections of your entire home, and it's all blended together to essentially you can look at it like a dollhouse feature, and it's easy. You just click on the little circle to go to the next step. So it's like you navigate yourself into the main bedroom or down the hallway. You can look up, you can look down, left, right, and really swing right around. You can have them from the front, looking at the facade, or at the back, looking at the backyard, etc. We in our business, Darren, we use those a lot because, and we don't do display home Matterports or Matterport tours, or they're called virtual tours. I think still a lot of the time, we actually do a lot of our clients' houses. So, but just at handover, we go and do a Matterport of a real client's home, and our sales team then use that to present. Well, here's a client who did this. Here's a client who did that. There's no furniture. It's like completely raw and real and authentic. And for our business, that works really well because buyers, they don't want to see the display home and $300,000 of furniture. They want to see, well, what is it that I actually get? So Matterport, in my opinion, is currently the best way to present that, because it's literally a client's house that's been recorded. If you want to show a floor plan, two-dimensional, here's what it looks like. That looks pretty good. Jump over to a Matterport and you can say, well, let's take a walk through. So that I think is really really powerful, and like you got listed here, that there's also VR, virtual reality headset option as available for people as well. So that's coming along as a technology even further. So yeah, that's probably anything else to add on Matterport, Daz. I think it's a pretty good one for me.
I like the fact that you can go back and look at old display homes. So if it is a display, obviously it's not limited to the time that the display is open. I think that's really cool. Yeah. For those who get a chance, jump on and have a look. You don't walk through the home as such. You do move room to room. So like you said, follow the dots on the floor. But I do think it's now commonly used by a lot of builders. I think it's done because it's used because it's so bloody good, right? And you get a great opportunity to see the home. I think it's just a terrific option that's in the market right now, and probably for mine the leader right now. Now, things will change, but right now I think it's the leader of the pack in those. But that's just a personal opinion.
Probably, sorry, Darren, two things I didn't mention, the other benefits. One is you can do call outs, which means that we can highlight what's standard and what's not. And you can actually put images and video links and education within the call out box. That's really valuable for home buyers. We have a tour on ours, Darren, called Real Home, Real Inclusions Tour. And it's literally a standard. It does have furniture through it, but it's a standard home as per our standard inclusions. And it's got a little call out like, here's the driveway, here's what we put in, here's the brick above window, here's what we put in. And also some educational comments are in there as well. So that's one. The other one is if you want to see certain orientation of or design layout of an ensuite or of a bathroom that someone may have done historically, then you can show them on a virtual tour on a Matterport, and they can stand in there and go, oh, that's not quite enough room, or how's that kitchen layout look, or how's that butler pantry look? That's where I think it's really powerful. It gives you reality right in front of you, but only through the screen, I
Yeah.
suppose.
I must say, I've looked at Matterport. I've looked at it multiple times this week on different things, talking to customers about their home, whatever. I haven't used the VR for a long time, so I'd love to go back now. Like, and talking about this gives you that inspiration to go back and go, I've got a set of VR goggles. I can stick my phone in it and try it in that format, which is one of the easy formats, or $20, $30 set of really cheap and nasty VR goggles, or go the full VR option. But it'll be interesting to see how the VR looks, because the next one I'm going to touch on is all about VR. So and that's Situ Systems, and it's on the market. One of the builders is promoting that as HomeX. It's available only through selected builders right now. I think this is going to be. I do think this will be some of the way of the future, is my personal opinion. I do really like it. I had a lot to do with it when I was working for a particular builder. It was a lot of work. You could tell how much effort has to go into designing something to read a floor plan and then build a home in a VR space. Like, it took about as much time to build a home in the VR space as it did to build the home in the real space to some degree. And that's that growth in technology. And as they get better and better at that, those things, obviously get better and better. But the guys from Situ System, they're gamers. It comes from a gaming space. So, you see how good some of these games and stuff are. And I'm not a gamer, but my son is. And you look at the quality of the graphics and where this stuff gets to, it just gets better and better, right? So you can feel like you are actually inside the house. It's almost, like you said, a bit surreal. Like, you can lean and look around the corner and stuff. You're like, hold on, it's almost weird. Like, it feels unusual, and you feel like you're going to walk into stuff. Like, you can sort of take a few paces forward, and then you obviously have to look to move. You can't just walk around because you run out of space, right? Unless you've got a big paddock to walk in. But it is pretty cool. And it does feel almost real at times. Some of the transitions, because it'll move you from one room to the next, you feel like you're in, some television show, you're teleporting. It's sort of different, right? But it's pretty cool. You can jump on a computer screen and look at it too. So you can do a virtual reality walkthrough on a computer screen if you didn't want to have the full VR version of that, which is pretty cool. You can load in, obviously, various floor plans, different options. You can load in internal color boards. That's sort of where it's at now, right? I guess the limitations, I would say, is it can be slow to load. So, and what I mean by that is, to get it loaded onto a set of VR goggles and go visit either a display home or one of the places where you can actually try it, you've got to book in to do it, because they may not have your floor plan you want to look at on the goggles right now. They've got to get that, upload it, Situ have to build that. So they have to load the plans into the computer at their end, hit the buttons, whatever they do. It's then got to read that plan and go, all right, I'm going to build this house. Like, it's pretty significant what happens, but that's getting faster and faster for sure. So, I know in the first times I spoke with Situ, it was days or weeks to get a floor plan loaded. Now it's minutes and hours. Soon it'll be seconds, right? I guess some of the future improvements will be, you'll be able to go in, look at a standard floor plan, maybe add some options, then tweak that floor plan yourself. You might say, geez, I just want to make a couple of changes. I want to add a door to my ensuite. I want to, move this room and that room, whatever the builder allows you to do within their scope of works. And then do your full color selection, and then have all of that appear in 3D. That's the future where it's at. So you'll be able to actually look through your home before it's built, and it'll look like your home. And you can put furniture in, and you can play with all that sort of stuff. So that's where the future's going, I guess. It's certainly pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Does it replace display homes, seeing a physical home? Maybe. Is the market ready for that? Definitely not, right? Display homes will still be around, but it's just interesting to see where it's at. And I think it's a pretty cool option. I think they're probably the leaders of the VR space, so to speak, right now that I've seen.
The other component is price.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's obviously timing and price, and that always goes a little bit better as it's more adopted, obviously the price, becomes more realistic. But I remember going back then, this is 2015, and we were at the same discussion saying, well, I want the design option. I want to be able to walk in the ensuite and see all 10 design options by clicking a button and feel like I'm in them and go, that's the one for me. And then I want to be able to pick my colors and pull the drawer out and all that sort of stuff. And they could do that, but they couldn't do it for a cost that was, justified.
Yeah.
So it's getting closer, which is
what
nice.
I would say for builders, though, what I liked was, for example, if the plans, because again, you're relying on a 2-dimensional set of plans to be built 3-dimensionally. So when this thing was built 3-dimensionally in the virtual world, you'd find the mistakes that were in the plans. So it's a great way to save money on site for a builder, because they can do a walk around the whole home, inside and outside, and find all the mistakes that are in the drawings. So they're not having to fix those mistakes when they're on site, because, again, humans are drawing these things, right? The reality is a human draws a set of plans. It's certainly the first set, and if you're making changes, so they can pick up on all those sort of things. They can look at the finer details, zoom right in on those finer details and go, no, we need to fix that. And then they fix it before they get to site. And then your house is built more efficiently, quicker, less costs, less headaches on site. So that's one.
Not just errors, Darren, also just design improvements. Like that
Absolutely.
didn't quite work the way we thought it would. Let's push that out and put that across. And
Yep.
Next one.
What have you got, mate?
Big plans. So back to 2-dimensional. So big plans are essentially a life-size image of your floor plan projected onto a floor in let's say a warehouse, but it's in scale. So whilst these are not 3-dimensional, you can't, like a virtual reality sort of or a Matterport, see around you the walls. You're looking at the floor, and basically it helps you with the space, the measurements. So you can stand in a bedroom and go, oh yeah, our bedroom will fit, our bed will fit here, and the side table will fit here. You can stand in the meals and family area and go, okay, this is where the couch will be, and this is where the TV unit will be, etc. So they're becoming pretty popular. Some builders actually include them as an option for you to go and do with their plans. But alternatively, you can just go and do it yourself. I think you've got written here, Daz, about $400 I guess if you're not sure about the space, it's probably money well spent, because then you can go in and you can just be sure that, okay, that's enough bedroom size, that's enough lounge or living size or whatever it may be, or the laundry is big enough or small enough, etc., or too small, I should say. So that's big plans. They're a pretty good little technology, and I think there's been some good take up by some builders across the country doing this, and it's been around for a number of years as well. There's one guy I used to know from previous place we worked at, and he did them from day dot. I'm thinking it was maybe 20. I think he was 16 or 17. Like, he was well and truly doing big plan stuff, and he just explained that the clients just got the true understanding of space by doing it that way, because walking through display homes and seeing bits of paper printed out is sometimes quite. Some people learn differently, see things differently, So some people are visual, they get it. Some people don't, so they just think, oh, that room looks like it's good enough, that'll do, and then they get in, they're like, I wish it was a little bit bigger,
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting too, Cole, because and I've been a big planner. In fact, I'm going to make it something I do. So when an opportunity comes up soon, I'll certainly go in and have a look, because I think it'd be interesting to see. But what I can imagine, and I went through a house under construction yesterday, is sometimes in the houses, when you go through a house with just a frame, it can feel really big or it can feel really small. It's quite like, then you go through a house that's not painted versus painted. Not painted feels small, painted feels bigger. Don't know why, just the way your brain works. And so even with big plans, you can wheel walls in, put a couch in, etc. There's no roof on it. So you look up and it feels a lot bigger. So sometimes I would wonder, and so I'd love to go and see it, just to feel whether you get a true perspective of what that room feels like for size. Certainly on the ground you will, no doubt, but not having a wall there to bump into, means it might feel bigger. And then when it's built, so anyway, but I think it's certainly a great option. Yes, it's in Melbourne, but I did see on their website there are other options interstate as well. So
there are. Yep, absolutely.
Definitely around the country. Pretty cool option. So
yeah.
I might jump into GeoSite 3D, which is a siting software that shows you how the home will be built on your lot. Again, I've had a lot of experience with GeoSite. Selectors, builders only opt for this option. It gives you an external view of the home showing the fall of the land. So you can enter in the fall of the land, and it'll actually give you a look of what the house is going to look like on the block. It'll show you the site cut. So, the cut and levels. It'll show you retaining walls if needed, any of that sort of stuff. You then have an ability also to play with the colors and stuff. So you can jump in and go, actually, I want to make my bricks, instead of red, I want them cream, etc., and do all that sort of stuff. Change my roof color, so you can have a real good play around. It helps understand how big your backyard's going to be. Again, if there's fall on the block, retaining walls, driveways, all that sort of stuff, it really gives you a good look at the home externally, right? And obviously you can also look at the solar orientation. So you can look at where the light's coming into the home, how that's going to impact, etc. So it's certainly some of the cool parts of GeoSite 3D, and I think it's a really great option. That sort of that virtualization of your site, and certainly one of the powerful tools that are out there. So yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, there are quite a few siting programs. Siting tool meaning here's how your house will look on your block. Here's the side setback, front and rear. But GeoSite's moving to sort of that next layer of a site, they're determining site costs and everything for the builder as well. So perhaps it's more of an internal tool for the industry, but what it produces is something that can be shown to a client to help them better understand. And there are some other tools around that do some things that are pretty similar, and I'm plenty that are being worked on as well, Darren.
Yeah,
absolutely. So each builder might have their own version. I think the other one, Darren, which is pretty straightforward, is YouTube videos and walkthroughs. So these are a camera, holding the camera and walking through. They can actually be quite helpful if you don't have a Matterport there. So as I said before, I'm a big fan of Matterports. So display homes are great because you go and get, the experience and the fun and, wow, look what I could have, and that sort of the aspirational element, I would call it. I find Matterports give you reality if they're of clients' homes in our cases, but also, like you said, they can show you display homes that closed last year, but you can still walk through and get an understanding of the layout, etc. YouTube walkthroughs also give you sort of that experience, a bit more reality, which is good, authenticity. And there's like one that you've got here, Darren, a display home 360, which is, I guess, walkthrough of display homes. And I guess, some actual homeowners have their homes being built and have it filmed along the way. Gives great insights to what the home design outcome really is, So again, I'm more on that authenticity reality. I believe that's the part where I, as a buyer, would prefer to have a better understanding. And so the Matterport's YouTube walkthroughs, I'm a big fan of. Yeah,
absolutely. I think also, some people set up an Instagram page for their home being built. I've seen that happen.
That does happen.
So it's really cool. So you can get some really good insight. And what I like about when those happen is they do give you often captures all the way along the build as well. So you don't only just see the finished product, you get to see it come out of the ground. There are some, I've seen some really cool time-lapse videos of homes getting built too. So, there's some of these things that are out there, well worth having a look at, because you get an idea of what actually goes on throughout that whole build. So, yeah, pretty cool. I've got another one, Cole, which is Brickworks, which is one of the major Austral Bricks, one of the major brick suppliers. They have a tool called iVisualise, and it's a home visualization tool for your facade. So obviously they're selling bricks on the outside. And so what it allows you to do is to choose from selected builder's plans. But again, if you've got you might, and I had a play around again last night. I hadn't used it for a while, but I did have a play around last night, and it's pretty cool. There are selected builders, as I say, but you might find that you're looking for a Hampton style, but you want to change it up a bit. We can pick someone else's facade off their home and know that it's going to be somewhat similar to your facade, and then play with those colours, print it off. When you go to the builder's colour studio, you can take that picture in and talk to them about what that looks like. You can obviously pick your brick colour, roof colour, render, cladding, window colours, etc. And it goes on and on. But there's a fair bit to choose from. You are limited to the selected builders, obviously, but you could go, well, mine's pretty similar to that, I can leverage off that. But you're also limited to, selected products, such as Brickworks products. So you'll be limited to their bricks. You're not going to get their competitors' bricks, for example. So again, I guess there are certainly some limitations in that, but I think it's a pretty cool tool, and probably one that's underutilized, I would have thought. So Yeah, there's a fair bit going on in that space, Cole. In
Yep.
the technology space, I guess generally, and I guess maybe to wrap it up, Cole. Probably both got an opinion on these, but where do you see display homes in the future, and are they dead? Would be one that I've got for you.
Are they dead? Interesting question. We may look at it differently. I've always looked at it differently, I believe, compared to most people I've dealt with in our industry, but it depends on the buyer type, first and foremost. If you're an investor, display homes are dead. You don't need a display home if you're an investor. You just need a nice, clear, that's the plan, that's the colour pattern. You need a nice process and a price that gives you good return, pretty much. One mistake I see investors make is they get too heavily involved in the emotional side of things and they start going through display homes and confusing the process. Big no-no in my book. If you're looking for a dream home, a second or a third home, then I think that's where display homes really come into their own, and I think that they are absolutely needed. Some form of physical representation, display home, or in our case, a home that's built, a spec home, or one that's available by appointment. I think they're still essential in today's market. Complemented by some of the technologies for now. Some of the technologies will be able to take over in due course, but I don't think the market's ready for that, Darren. My personal view on display homes is that they are not really necessary. I find them confusing for the most part. I think in terms of the buying decision, they are not as important. But in terms of getting the inquiry through the door and the aspirational element and getting all that stuff flushed out of your system and go through a few display homes, they will start getting a little bit confusing from there. I feel that just for our business, I'll say, because there's obviously a need for display homes, we don't need the aspirational part. We prefer to get straight into not perception, but reality. Here's what we do. Here's how we do it. Here's why we do it. Here's what's included, etc., etc. Display homes are lead generators, in my view. That's what they're there for. That's why they've got salespeople there trying to get your name and number, because they are lead generation tools. But you get to walk out and go, wow, that home was amazing. You feel inspired and the colors are good or whatever it may be. They definitely can contribute to what you do choose. So no, they're not dead. They're absolutely needed. I just feel that it does heavily depend on the buyer type for the most part in the current, probably always has been the current market. So no, technology has not yet taken over the need for some form of representation of a house physically on the ground, in my view.
From my end, Cole, I'd say I still think they're a vital part of the building journey. I think the traffic through display homes is diminishing, and I think that's been happening for the last 10 years, maybe more. That there's just less and less people going to just trawl through every home in a display village because people are busy, right? So, I think the reason I say it's a vital part of the journey is part of that journey is doing your online shopping, right? Working out, hold on, who do I want to talk to? What are the floor plans I like? What's the house design style, etc. I like? Then finding those online and going to look at those ones, not going to look at every home. Because if you go walk through every home, you're confused, right? It's overwhelming, etc. So shortlisting back to what you want to look at. I do say it's the biggest purchase you're ever going to make for most people, certainly if it's your family home. So if it's a home you're going to live in, right? It's not worth taking the risk of not going. If there is a display, it's probably worth going and have a look at, right? Because, or if there's not a display, talk to the builder about how can you see it? Is it using virtual reality? Is it using a Matterport? Is it going through a house under construction, like you said, Cole? So that you can actually see it, right? And understand what it's going to look like. You want to get it near completed, right? You don't want to go look at a frame and go, oh, it's going to look like that. Like, you'd have no bloody idea. I've got no idea. I've been doing it for years, right? Like, until the walls are in and everything's in, it's sort of hard to tell, but you want to get pretty close to completion. But I think you want to you definitely want to be able to see a home of some description before you buy it, right? So that you've got it, even as an investor, doing a Matterport's ideal. It's ideal.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to go see the display home, but if you're spending lots, and I'm talking lots, you're going to spend $1.5 million on your build, and I see customers like that. Why wouldn't you jump on a plane to Queensland and go see it if you had to, right? Because just to make sure that it's right. Because if you're spending that kind of money, get it right. That's probably my point. So I don't think display homes are dead. I think traffic through displays is certainly slowing, but they're a vital part of what we do as an industry. But if you can see the home, please do in some format.
Yeah, under construction is pretty powerful. I always find some consultants disagree historically, but I think it's quite helpful if you can find one at practical completion stage or after lockup. Fix ideally.
And I loved it when I was selling.
Best. It gives you reality. Yeah, me too. So, and that's even for some of our investors. Like, if we can show them, it's not always the exact floor plan, but it's more like, well, I'll show you a plan that's a similar size, and we can at least get the tape measure out and give you some perspective. That works really well. So, yeah, I think that's hopefully that helps everyone to get a few touch points on some of the tools that you could be used technologically. Some of the things that may come up, and I guess myself and Darren's views, not too dissimilar. I mean, obviously we're representing different types of buyers mainly, so I think that's what it does come down to. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight there, Darren. I think anything else to add?
No, you know what I'd love to see? I'd love to look at this episode in 5 years' time and see what's actually still around, what's not around, and what's come onto the market. Because, you look at where AI is going and stuff right now, the advancements are weekly. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing. So,
that part very interested in.
Love to talk at some stage. We'll look towards an episode on that. I think, Cole, would be technology on site, where that heads, and I think that's the next big leap as well. So we'll leave that at exactly there.
Well, we will. I could begin, 3D printed houses.
Correct.
They can 3D print a house. They just can't do it compliantly with where we're at yet. And it's not exactly the world's quickest thing. Prefab houses, another one. That's a huge thing, and that may help with fixing housing shortages. And our mate Elon Musk has got a company called Boxable that continues to absolutely dominate, and the price point's really, really sharp. And they pretty much prefab them and then click them into place when they get on site. Things like that. I could go on. Anyway, maybe we'll cover that in another one, Darren. I think people need to. I'd go on for 2 hours, I reckon, on that stuff. So I'll stop.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, mate. Excellent.
Well, team, thank you very much for listening again. If you like what you hear, obviously jump on, 5-star review for us on the platform you're listening to. Any feedback, any questions, homebuildinghub.com.au. There's a little feedback or contact us section there. If you want to learn a bit more about myself or Darren, go back to episode 1, intro on us, who we are, what we do, what the podcast is about, and why we're providing the value to you. And other than that, we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. And just our disclaimer, whilst we're all about providing value to you, this podcast should not be considered as legal or financial advice. It contains general information only, and you should seek out independent professional advice on your personal situation before making any legal or financial decisions.
1, 2.